worked for several years and then have jumped into it. Several, I think, more than 5 years. Yeah? Okay, awesome. This is really unique, and I think kudos to you, Jitin, for like setting this up. I don't see such a inclusive class of all ages, of all backgrounds. And once again, thanks Shiva for always thinking of me. Means a lot. So hopefully I'm able to do some good. Are we good? Should I start? I think the videographers are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know. Cool. So hopefully folks can see this. So I'm here to kind of try and convince you folks that you've taken the right call. I mean, I know it's too late, but you have taken the right call. And I'm just talking about how right now it's the best time to be a creative professional. I am heavily biased, but I'll back it up with data. But before that, I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I run a platform called IndieFolio. I started this when I was in my 12th grade. I didn't have the luxury of an IIAD back then, so I learned on YouTube, and I've been freelancing since the 8th grade. I did 3D animation, UI UX all by myself, and I was really convinced that the future of creative and future of outsourcing will be powered by independent freelancers and not big traditional agencies. So today what IndieFolio does is we are trying to disrupt the traditional creative agency model, where we basically have a dedicated layer of experts who sit on top of a large network of independent designers and studios. So our core layer brings in the consistency and the relationships with brands, while we bring in variety and scale by having a large pool of folks like you. We work with about 300 plus brands. Some of the biggest companies in India trust us, and a lot of young startups too. So be it Domino's or Nika or Ogilvy, Urban Company, and a lot of agencies like Wunderman Thompson. They're all part of our client network. We have over 70,000 members in our network. I think the last time I checked, they've earned over 20 crores through our platform, and that's something I'm very proud of about. So I think we need audio for the next one, yeah? Okay. So this is some work which our network has done. So yeah, we've done about 3,000 plus projects so far. Oh, thank you, that's all the community. Nothing, not done anything, but it's all for the community. So now back to, I think the volume is too loud. Yes. There's also autoplay on. Can you switch it off? For some reason it's just going next and next. I'll manage without it. So back at my topic. I have to share my credits so people take me seriously. I always say that. But let's talk about why right now we're probably in a golden era. So I think, and it's a beautiful example, right, of how the world is moving. Is this working? Where is the sensor? Is it this?
Yeah. If it's not working, I'll just go ahead and point.
Okay. I'll say on next one. Okay, fine. So I think the reason I say it's never been a better time to be a creative professional, because today we live in a world where the value chain of creative people has increased a lot. Today, if you were to make a buying decision, how your brand is, how that first 3 seconds of that ad is what, it's the fundamental reason somebody will click and get my attention. And once I'm also in the funnel for me to go from step A to step Z, It's the creative guy who's defining my experience. And we've just scratched the surface, right? So I think generally the demand is going to be far higher than any of us can predict. And that's why I think digital and economy is meeting so well. You are a great example on how you've literally learned a new skill and transformed your career without meeting anyone. So that's absolutely fantastic, and that's why I really feel India is going through a big renaissance specifically. I'll talk more about this towards the end of my topic, but I think there are about 1800 design colleges in India right now. This does not unfortunately count folks like even and other schools who teach. If you were to see, I think 15 years ago or 16 years ago, that number was a couple of hundreds, like the lower level of hundreds. So you can imagine there has been, it's not easy to make a design college, and there have been 1700 colleges, almost 1500 new colleges in the last 15 years. So that's crazy. Can you go next, please? In terms of the numbers, this is credits to CII. If you want to look at numbers, digital design, which is UX, HSI, HCI, graphic design, all comes to around 70,000 CR. Animation and VFX is around 18,000 CR, and industrial design is a little less at about 400 CR. So that's a massive opportunity. Whenever I show these numbers to serious people, they agree, don't agree, but this is by CII. And that's the closest we have. Unfortunately, there is no serious design analysis done on how big our industry is. But this is our best guess. Can you go next, please? This is very interesting. So I was going to talk here. So I was thinking, let me see, how the trends have moved on LinkedIn, because that's the best place people put jobs. You'll see that. So this is a comparison of how there has been growth over years on job postings on LinkedIn, and also how an existing person has to change their skill set to fit for that job. So if you will see, number one, user experience, there's been a 33% growth. That means 3 years from now, there will be double the number of jobs already out there on the market, right? And it's been a growing trend. There was an exponential growth sometime before COVID. Then there is user interface design. And in both these courses, if you see, the skill has really changed from web designers, CSS and Adobe Dreamweaver. Now it's really become a very new stack of tools which you need to learn. And then followed by that, you've got graphic design. And unfortunately, there was no interior or other skills here, so I put photography, which was there. And if you see photography and those other skills, unfortunately, are declining in the chart. But UX, UI, I've seen a huge growth, and graphic design's been sturdy. It's maintained its growth. Can you go next? This is by Nielsen. And Don Norman is like the god of user experience. This is his chart on how UX jobs have increased. Literally in the last 5 years, there has been a 320% growth on UX jobs available in the market, which is insane. And if you're curious, I was very curious as to what the hell are people doing in 60s and 70s. It's the people who are making, how does the microwave function, how does the fridge function, what can you show? That was experience design that time. And now experiences are digital and digital. Sounds awesome, right? Like, yes, this is the best time to become a designer. But the thing is, if you can go next, it's a double-edged sword. Whenever you are in a hyper-growth market, there will be too many players in the system. It's going to be a rat race, right? When you apply to a job and I run a marketplace, within a minute, you will see 20 applications. Within an hour, about 50. If you are a company like, let's say, a Flipkart, within a day, on an average, you will see 800 designers applying to a job listing, right? So the real question is, how do you stand out, right? How are you that one person who I decide to hire? Can you go next? So let's call it the 10% club, right? Like, how can you be part of the cream layer of creative? Any guesses what skills the 10% club should have? Let's not make this boring. You guys can take part. Yes.
Personal branding.
Personal branding, okay. There are no wrong answers, folks. It's okay. Take part, will be fun. Say something. You guys don't know what's the top 10%? If you have to guess, yes? You have to shout.
Communication
I can't hear you. Communication, bang on. Anybody else? Okay. So, each is to one's own. This is my personal biased opinions, but as per my observation, these are the most important things you need to look for, right? Trust me, it's not about how good of a designer you are. It's a lot more than that, because everybody knows how to design after graduating from IIAD. But what you don't know is what I'm here to tell you. Number one is storytelling. Humans are built to hear stories, and be it the best founders, the best creative people, maybe your best teachers, they leverage storytelling to convince you about something or to manipulate your mind. That's what we all do, right? So storytelling is extremely important. Communication, I think somebody said bang on. That's also very, very important. If you can think, write, and speak in a very articulated way, you're a monster. Nobody can touch you, whichever field you are in. And as a creative person, 90% of our job is convincing people, right? It's going to be a very powerful tool. Next up is understanding business. Unfortunately, I've seen so many people, they're like, poster banaya, social media post banaya, I did branding, or I probably went ahead and made a website. What happened after that? Right? Nobody really cares. They're like, oh, it looks pretty, man. I love it, my boss approved it. Your job doesn't end there. It could end there, but if you want to be in the top 10%, your job doesn't end there. Understand what's the North Star metric of my company. What's the value my design decisions have created. And also be really good with research. Right? How do you really understand that your ideal customer profile, what questions to ask them is very, very crucial as well. And the last thing is obsession. I think I would put obsession as the top 1% club. Remember that obsession eats talent for breakfast. Right? Obsession always beats talent any day. If you see the most successful people, they'll say obsession is the key metric of those folks out there. And I mean, I don't watch football, so I hope nobody throws anything at me. But what I've heard is, when you compare, let's say, Ronaldo and Messi, right? And I could be wrong, my friends have told me this is secondary data, so don't, it's not my opinion. Is apparently Messi, as they say, is born like a legend, okay? He's somebody who is just very good, he's like God. But Ronaldo is an obsessive guy. Even today, being the oldest person in his team, one of the oldest people in his team, he trains like a maniac and nobody can beat him because he's obsessed to get better on a day-to-day basis. You cannot compete with a person like that. So be obsessive if you really like what you do. I'm sure your parents have not forced you to become a designer, right? So I'm assuming you're really passionate about what you do, so obsess over it. Can you go next? And let's talk about rare skills now, okay? I just thought I'd let you folks know in my marketplace wherever I have supply shortages. First up is a full stack designer. I'm sorry for the spelling mistake that I just heard. So a full stack designer is someone who can research, wireframe, prototype, do high fidelity design, and do some level of interaction design. If you know the entire stack, oh man, there's a lot of companies willing to pay you whatever money you want. That's a very rare skill, and we are going for the next 2-3 years at least into a market which will not invest heavily into large in-house bloated teams. So the more you know, especially in HCI, the better it is for you. Next up is 3D design. I'm sure you must have observed, especially in India recently, communication, be it even your apps, they're all becoming 3D, right? Because that's the new in thing, that's the new style. So if you know Cinema 4D, if you are able to use 3D in Figma or Blender, very powerful skill once again. Next up is motion and interaction design. I'm not talking about motion graphic design, that's also there. But motion design is very, very important today. I think what a lot of product designers have realized is the way we interact with the world, right? It's like if I'm picking my phone, I'll pick it up like this. But the way legacy or at least Web 2.0 is just like, it's an abrupt cut. So it's still an abrupt thing in our mind. So the dynamic island of Apple, or when you hit order on Uber or Swiggy, and the way the screen flows is what our brain really likes. It's kind of telling you how to go from A to B, and it makes for a better experience for the user. It's also more delightful. So again, if you can do that, if you know Lottie, if you can do Figma to Lottie, if you can do After Effects to Lottie, if you can create SVG animations, very powerful skill set. Next up is no code and low code. You know, the best engineering talent used to build websites. Now they're building models and blockchain based systems. So there is a gap now. No good engineers want to create and make a landing page, right? So there has been a huge push for no code and what's called low code tools. This is an opportunity for you folks to actually eliminate engineering from the workflow and become the engineer and build products which can go live and users can interact with. So Webflow, Retool are amazing ways for you to understand how technology works, how databases are structured, all without the jargon and complexity of engineering. Then there is AR and VR design. I'm sure you all have heard it too much. I'm not going to speak more. But while it's always upcoming, but it's still taking time. But there will be a day where within 2-3 years there will be an exponential rise. You saw how AI hit us in the face. It will happen with AR VR soon once the hardware problem is solved for. And then there's Unreal. If I were to guess, for the next 2 decades, Unreal is going to be the Photoshop of our generation. Right? They are making the core of how the next experience is. So if you can start flirting with it, it will probably really be good when it becomes an in thing. And the last thing is a real producer. If you have the skill to create content which attracts a person's attention in 3 seconds, trust me, you have an amazing leverage. Anybody and everybody is going to want to hire you, because be it getting students for AND to selling your perfume, you need that skill set to do well. CAC is solved through creative. So always remember that that's also a very important skill. Can we go next? So yeah, that's more about about what's happening and how to stand out the clutter. Now let's talk about kickstarting your creative career. Okay. Next. I personally believe when you do a job or something like that, it's like playing a game. The question is, which game do you want to play? There are multiple levels. Wait. I will tell you. I wanted people to guess, but it's okay now. People saw it. Go next.
We didn't see it.
Okay. I don't think you guys are seeing any of it, but guess what all are the kinds of things you can do as a creative person if you want to launch your career from the get-go. ये तो guess कर लो guys. No, nothing. You'll do one more course. Full-time job. I'll give you a first option. You can do a full-time job. What else?
Freelance events.
Yes, thank you. Then?
Start your own studio.
Yes, awesome. Then?
Your own design studio.
Yeah, same thing. Then? Cool. I think just go next. So, I think very few professionals can say this, that there are actually 4 and maybe even 5-6 things you could do, because that's the power a creator or a creative person has today, right? Obviously you can do full-time, and I'm glad somebody said freelance, but I've also seen people having the ability to create content. We are all content creators, right? That's very powerful. And then there's merchandising. You can actually build a product that people will pay for. And that's going to be really, can go next. And I'll talk about the pros in each of these, right? So first up, when you do a full-time job, stability is amazing, right? You can end up becoming a chief design officer somewhere, and you can really grow a company at scale. Then there is becoming a freelancer or an agency owner. The biggest pro there is you get control. You decide who to work with, who to pay, how to charge, where to work from, and so on. Third thing is content creation. You solve for distribution. Every founder is searching for somebody who has solved for distribution. So if you create your own distribution, you will have that's very powerful. And lastly is merchandising. That's a great way for you to make money when you sleep. You make a product, you put it online. If it's great, people will buy it when you sleep, and you will make money when you sleep. But obviously they all come with downsides, and I'm not here to tell anybody what to pick. I'll tell you the pros and cons as per me, and you should go ahead and pick the best option for you. Can you go next? Is in full time, I think from all of this option, full time has minimal upside. Your upside is as good as where the company goes, what the boss thinks, blah blah blah. And it's also there is no control beyond a point, unless you're a CXO, which is a huge several decades worth of exercise. There is minimal control as a full time person. And in an agency, very hard. It's called a very long gestation period. It's probably 15 to 18 months. Sometimes it goes up to 3 years if you want to really start off and there is no stability at all. If you want to start content creation, remember that this demands the maximum number of persistence and consistency at the same time. You guys must have heard about Mr. Beast or MKBHD. They were creating videos every day which got 5 views. It's not easy to do that for 5 years, 6 years. I think Mr. Beast's success came after some 6-7 years of him being consistent on a day-to-day basis, right? Nobody talks of, they're all overnight successes in news, but when you look at them, they'll be doing it for decades, which is what news doesn't cover. So very hard. I think it's really hard to become a content creator. And I think merchandising is not at all about your business, because if you want to be a successful e-commerce store, your logistics knowledge, your career relationship with your partners, how you're marketing things, solving for CAC and LTV, and all these other jargons which you may not know, becomes your main important skill you need to acquire. So, lots of cons, but also the pros. So it's up to you folks to decide, what's the best pathway to go. But again, repeating myself, very few professions can actually have so many options in the first place. So you're lucky you've got 4 paths out there. So yeah, I think a lot of you now are figuring, what to do, Kavan. This is actually confusing. I always get that. So I think, there's definitely, you have to crack your portfolio. You have to go ahead and just keep on going next. There's pressure from family, you have to do personal branding ad. I hate myself on the camera. That's why I wanted the clicker. But and then there's obviously the money problem, right? Some things need investment, some things don't need investment. But my suggestion is just go ahead and do it, right? I think my favorite quote is Mike Tyson. Like, he talks about you can prepare all you want for a fight till you get punched in the face. That's when you're like, okay, now I need to figure out what to do. So a lot of people get into analysis paralysis, right? Here, ye karunga, wo karunga. Pehle logo banate, fir dekhte. You have to first decide what exactly. You can't decide what exactly you need to do. You have to go and enter the market. Once you fail is when you will realize. I think you folks are amazing examples of who are okay with change. You know that just because you chose something doesn't mean it's over. Like to make you guys feel better, my dad, he transitioned his career at 40. He did medicine, which takes 1 million years to become a doctor in India. Then he practiced for 10 years and then he decided to switch at 40 into law and start off as a zero experience guy. And he's one of the top lawyers in India in pharma today, right? So literally, you can change whenever the hell you want to. My dad's one of the biggest examples, I feel. So kudos to you folks to take that step already. I don't have to tell you about this. I just realized. Next. So here is something again I want to share with a bunch of folks here, and I think I usually put this slide when I'm talking to students who are like just graduating. But there's been some advice, and this is a little preachy, but there has been some advice which is floating around that it's okay if you don't know what you want, it's fine, it's chill. It's true, but I think unfortunately people, especially young people, use that in a very, very bad way. They perceive that as being lazy, right? And they perceive that, okay, I have to be patient so my input can be, less, or there could be no input over years. That's not the right way to think. And if there's one thing you can take away from my presentation, it's going to be your next slide. That the right approach, and that's what I really believe in, is you need to actually be really impatient. You have to be impatient with your actions, and you have to be patient with the outcomes. It's a quote I really live by, which is, don't be somebody who's just, people usually do the opposite. They are like, I'm very patient with my input, but I'm very, very impatient with my output. That's very bad. It's a slippery slope. You'll never be happy in life, right? So just remember that, just do it and start off. Keep on doing something every day, but it will take time for you to get the results. I was discussing with Shiva and team on what else to talk about, and I think one very important question a lot of you have is, should I go to a big company, to a small company? Should I go to the brand side or the agency? And I'll just share quickly my inputs on that. I think when it comes to enterprises, remember that you will get to learn from a lot of peers and mentors. There's a lot of hierarchy. ACD, CD, CPO, CDO, and so on. So it's a great way for you to learn from those folks. While in startups, you learn from failing. That's what I've at least realized. That's what happens in IndieFolio. I don't have time to guide somebody. I'm like, nahi chala to abhi, it's your fault. So you figure it out. Then another thing with enterprises is that you really learn to understand professionalism, like workplace professionalism. You'll come to understand process. There will be a process to do everything from taking a leave to sometimes going to your boss and booking a conference room, right? It's important if you are able to understand what an SOP is and how to implement and how to read an SOP, which sometimes in a startup you will not be able to understand, but you understand frugality in a startup. How can I do something with nothing is a very important skill set. And if you see some of the biggest operators, as I call them, who are like MDs or VPs of big companies, when they try to start a company, they fail. Because going 0 to 1 is a very different skill set than going from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100. So you learn that at a startup. And the last thing is career laddering is great in an enterprise. You can literally stay in a Microsoft for all your life. And every year you get a promotion, a pay hike, more responsibilities and a bigger team. It's very hard to do that in a startup. But you will have maximum ownership. It's a double-edged sword again. Everything is your fault, but everything is under your control. So these are some factors to decide before you want to go to a big company or a small company. And then comes the brand side and agency side, right? I think on the brand side, what you'll realize is you will learn a lot outside creative. You learn how a brand takes a decision. You learn why a brand decides a certain creative route, not because they like the design, but because of 10 other reasons, which again is an important skill to have. While in an agency, like I said before, you learn from the top creatives, right? If you're in Ogilvy, you may have the chance to work with some of the best creative minds who've crafted some amazing communication over the years. Again, with brands, it's focused on one brand. It makes you understand focus, how to go deep into something. While with an agency, you will get to learn multiple industries. You may not understand it deeply, but you'll still get to know how each industry functions. So again, some pros, cons, or rather characteristics of the brand side versus the agency side. Cool. So I think coming to towards the end, don't worry, I can already see people yawning, is how do you build an impressive portfolio, right? I think there is a shortcut to success in creative, and that's your portfolio. I always feel that. If you have the ability to package your work in an extremely exciting and thoughtful manner, that's a shortcut to success. Because हमारा जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, right? That's the business we are in. We have to judge a book by its cover. If I can ask you folks, like, why do you need a portfolio? Can anybody tell me? Hi. Are you guys awake? Say na.
It shows your thinking skills, like.
Okay, but that's what a portfolio is. I'm saying, why do you need a portfolio? Right? Right? It's again what your portfolio is. Why do you need a portfolio? What easy answer is, huh? I can't hear you, sorry.
Because you need a systematic way to showcase your work.
A systematic way to showcase your work is what a portfolio is, correct? But why do you want to showcase your work, I'm asking?
Get a job.
Yes, I like that. But basically, I think it serves as two things. One is you to grab attention. A portfolio is used to do that because I told you 100 people apply. So how do you stand out is through a portfolio, because they're all BDES grads or certification or diploma grads on paper. Your work is what differentiates you and grabs the person's attention. And next is to make an impression, right? Saying, "मैं बहुत मस्त आदमी हूँ," right? Saying, "Look at my work, I'm great." The advantage you have is if a 50-year-old versus a 10-year-old are there, and 10-year-old is too young, sorry, 25-year-old is there. And their portfolio, I mean, if you're somebody who doesn't know them, who would never know who's the better person, who's more experienced, right? So that's extremely important for you to impress. You can take some photos here. This is a workshop I do for 2 hours, so I'm making this into 5 minutes. So I had to skip a lot, but I think I'll talk about how there are 8 characteristics which you need to keep in mind. One is brevity. Remember that people think that portfolio जब कोई देखता है ना design manager, they firstly take full coffee and they be like, चलो let's see each project. On our platform, 30 seconds is what you get to impress somebody. 30 seconds. That's the view time per portfolio. And the way a person sees your portfolio is they first check you out, right? They first check it top to down, कुछ है कि नहीं. The moment they like you, they'll see one project. If that has some merit, they'll go to the next project. So it's important, you need to know how customer or user behavior is for your portfolio. People end up putting 80 projects, 60 projects, 40 projects, 20 projects. Very bad idea. I have been in juries where I'm reviewing a portfolio and one lady has gone and told me, no, come on, don't look at this portfolio. I'm like, good that I'm here, but you can't do that. Why do you want to show this if you are not proud of it, right? So your portfolio has to show the best. 2 projects, 3 projects is okay. The magic number according to me is 3 to 6. Less than 3 is a little too much, a little too less, and more than 6 is a little too much. So keep it between 3 to 6, you're okay. Make sure that it's relevant and that it is clear. The bigger the company you apply to, the more chances of a non-designer looking at your work. Probably an HR intern who just knows UX, UI, art direction, okay, and doesn't understand what each of those things are. So if you put heuristic evaluation for customer onboarding, they may think you're some finance guy, I don't know, you know. So be very clear, I'm a UX designer having whatever experience, wanting to do this kind of a job. Make it easy to, for the HR to understand what you do. And make sure that it's also relevant, right? Can I understand if you are relevant for me? How does it happen? Put your contact information, put your about us, talk, put some paragraphs about you. Don't just leave it to a gallery of your work. For an HR, that's nothing. I need to see, are you an intern or are you somebody who's junior or senior or head or manager or IC? They need to know all that, and most people forget to put it in their portfolio. How it happens is an HR in a big company will be like, oh, this doesn't meet my checklist, they'll put you in another bucket, which is BRB bucket. Well, be right back on that. And by the time they go there, they've already closed the door. And I've seen these small things is what makes good designers stand out. And lastly, validation. At our scale, trust me, people copy other people's work. So that's why it's an industry trend to not trust things immediately. So great way for validation is put your photo doing a UX exercise or you doing mood boarding. Don't put the screenshot. Try and put your face doing it. Trust me, we've seen uptick when you put your own photos there. Chase your teachers, chase Shiva to give you a customer testimonial or a testimonial that okay, she worked with me, he worked with me. This was my opinion on this person. All this really is a cherry on the top when it comes to your portfolio. Next up is making an impression, right? 4 ways to make an impression. First up is depth. Do you guys understand what depth means in a portfolio? Any guesses? Guess the karo, it's okay if you're not.
Like the context of where
Context.
it's coming from, yeah.
No.
Sector knowledge.
Sector knowledge. Can you expand upon that? Sector, what sector?
Like the profile we are looking for, the job profile we are looking for.
Yeah, that's the right answer. So very few people get the depth question right. Depth is the opposite of versatility in a portfolio. You will often see recruiters telling you there is no depth in this person's work in, let's say, UI UX. I think you again are an exception. I just again realized that. But usually in a design college, you do foundation, and it's the college's responsibility to expose you to everything. But unfortunately, it results into portfolios which have black and white photography, 3D animation, UI UX, and branding as projects. So if I'm recruiting, I don't know what you're an expert for. And that's the biggest mistake people make. See, what happens is, if you're starting out your career in fresh, you have very risky assets, right? Like somebody is betting on you. Any which ways feel, especially true for students, that you've been selfish all your life. खुद के लिए marks लिए, खुद के लिए पढ़ाए, खुद के लिए portfolio बनाए, so I can get some job. But the moment you enter the market, you realize, oh, it's nothing for me. It's all for customer. It's all for my reader. It's all for everything else. That's where people fail. So that's why their any which way is not trusting you. So to build trust, depth helps you. Which means if if I'm hiring, let's say, a junior graphic designer, and I'm a D2C company, like I'm selling lipsticks and skincare, for example. If I see somebody who's done branding and packaging across 5 sectors, right, has done communication and ad marketing for those products in a portfolio, which are like all the 3 projects are that, versus somebody who's done maybe 1 branding project, but 1 UI UX and 1 photography, and for time pass you've done some passion project. Who do you think I'll choose, right? I'll obviously choose the person who has depth in their portfolio. So, very difficult call to make. Usually people are like, oh, I am good with 2 things, I'm good with 3 things, I don't know what I want to do. Make multiple portfolios. It's a big hack. I've had people coming to me saying, Kavan, I'm good with 2 things, and they're genuinely good with 2 things, but I'll make 2 accounts in Behance. I have a Behance portfolio for UI UX, I have a Behance portfolio for branding, and apply with those portfolios on those sites, you will get a much better click-through rate on your application. Next is documentation. I think you folks already know this. This is a very big topic to cover. But let me ask you a generic question. You must have spent a lot of time on Behance and Dribble, right? There's a certain way people document UI UX projects. There's a certain way people document branding work, and so on. Do you think we should follow the format or break it? Raise your hand if you think we should follow the format. Okay? Raise your hand if you think we should break the format. The rest would have an opinion only on anything. Huh? Let's try again. Who do you think wants to follow the format? And who do you think we should break the format? Who says? Okay. Always follow the format. Yes. So, it's something about human psyche, right? If you see very good people document something in a very good way, if other people follow their footsteps, you subconsciously feel, oh, this person has potential, because you are mirroring this person's behavior, right? So, you know how in Hindi and English essays, at least in ICSE I had that, you write address bar and subject and 4 marks you get, right? It's like that. Creative is a science, design is a science, right? You have to go about doing a certain kind of things before you reach an outcome. So always ensure that you have the core documentation steps recorded in the professional way. You can be creative within that on how to do it, but you must be very good with following the format, the industry format. Third thing is passion. How do you signal passion in your portfolio, right? It's through obsession. Did you do multiple rounds of iterations? Did you go and talk to enough users and did user study? Did you do enough competitive analysis? Show that. It will really signal that I am somebody who's very passionate about my work. And last thing is creativity. I don't want to talk more about that. If I tell you guys to make a list of creative ways to make a portfolio, you'll make 1,000. But creativity helps you be different. So be creative, add your personal touch, that always helps. Next. Sorry, I have to rush through this because I'm used to speaking on it for 2 hours. Yes, let's talk about my favorite part. Basics. Okay, this is clinical hygiene work you need to do in your portfolio. First up, professional DP. No Pikachu, no Goku, no BTS, no Shah Rukh Khan. I have seen those portfolios. And they want to apply at Microsoft. I'm like, what the hell, yaar? How will I send this? Please put nice photo, yaar. You've got a great studio. You are going to take everybody's snaps today. And put that as your main DP. Very important. Signals that you are smart, right? Next is basic introduction. Very underrated, always missed. You must write, I am Kavan, studying in the 3rd year, or I'm just finished my certification here. I'm looking for these kind of jobs, all remote or in Bombay. Again, very important data point. Nobody mentions anything about them. They're like, I studied drawing comic books when I was in 6th grade and now, whatever. Nobody cares about that. Give me keywords so I know you're relevant or not to me. Put basic introductions. Third thing is contact information. People miss it. You're okay, I think SBI calling you 1 million times. But you're not okay recruiter calling you. When you're actively looking for a job, put your number. You will get a much better response rate than somebody who does not. High quality images and aspect ratios, folks. I tell my lawyer father who's 60 about this. But I still see people sending me pixelated images, sending me squished images. That's basic hygiene. It's not that, maybe it could be a mistake. And nobody thinks that it's karna difficult hai. What it signals to me is you don't care. If you don't care for your own portfolio, how will you care for my client or for my company or for my customer? Right? So nobody wants to work with people like that. So I said it's very important you don't make this blunder, as I call it. Relevant thumbnails are important. Show the end output in your thumbnails, very high CTR compared to red banners saying banners. Those things never work. I see a lot of people do that. There's banners, icons, thumbnails. Those are very bad project thumbnails. Show the end output, will really help you out. Keep it updated. You can update your stories every day on Instagram. You can update your portfolio every 3 months. Your portfolio works for you when you sleep. Your portfolio is a holy grail. And especially at your level, you will be advancing in your skills every quarter, trust me. And design also generally changes a lot. Like who thought Figma will kill Sketch and XD and Photoshop also to a degree, right? Within literally 2 years. So it's very important that you keep on updating where you're at. No Google Drives and PDFs. I personally hate them. Some people still use it. But I feel Google Drives and PDFs are not useful for somebody who's living in 2023. There are much better ways to document and storytell as compared to these things. Also, we have a cascading style sheet, cascading format, right? We have of showing something. So imagine a PDF. You can't explain. It's going to be like brevity. Yes, I'm about to be done. And don't put software percentages. I know 93% of Photoshop or 86% of Illustrator. What does that even mean? I don't even think John Noll, who made Photoshop, knows what 92% of Photoshop is. Don't need to do that. I think I am done. Okay, I think we can skip it. I think in that case, yes, skip it. Skip it. Once again, you can take a photo of this if you guys want. I think very few people know how to write good emails. So if you want to write an email to a recruiter, please take a template, very high performing email. Make it brief, make it one scroll. Nobody should go beyond that. Do not attach a PDF, make a link. Put your CV also. Whoever says CVs are not for designers is a lie. And I will cover the remaining parts maybe in a new session. Next. Yeah, I think this is the last thing, this is the last slide. Don't worry. We're good. But this is what I want to leave you folks with. This is what excites me every day to still continue building IndieFolio after 9 years. I really feel that, you know how China is supposed to be the world's workshop? I think India has the potential to be the world's creative studio. Generally, if you want to compare us to China, right? If I were to just pick up any random thing, like where do you think this was made? Probably in China, right? Anything you pick up in your hand today, you're like, probably China mein bana hoga. Kyun? Because China has the ability to make manufactured items very, very quickly, very, very cheaply. If you look at creative, while China can do that, they can't speak English. And collaboration is very important in creative. We are the biggest non-English speaking nation, right? So we have a huge advantage. If you look at the logos I see below, Accenture, Deloitte, all of these people's biggest design delivery centers in the world now are in India. They're all doing creative work from India for the world. VFX also. If you ever looked at a movie and you wait till the credits, there are like 5 minutes of Indian names which come. It's not like we don't know how to make VFX. Indians don't have money, Indian producers don't have money and patience actually to invest into VFX. But we actually make really good VFX. One of my friends worked in the fur team of Life of Pi, so I know how good they are. So I think right now we are on the verge of actually riding the wave an engineers rode when Infosys and Wipro were starting in the 80s and 90s. So if you actually start doing this right away, trust me, you will see a huge change in how the world starts coming to us, not for IT, but also for creative now. And yeah, I think that's what I leave you folks with. Thank you so much. Yes.